Hello, everybody. I wanted to expand on some material to cover for week 3 in terms of methods. Okay, it's not really covered in the material too much, so I want to make this brief video, and hopefully this will help you to understand what interpret or read a table. For some of you, this is entirely new. For others, perhaps you've had experience doing this before. This is tied into our discussion of method, and the idea of concept, operationalizing a variable, measuring a variable. Okay, so in this hypothetical example, a sample of 150 people. This is completely hypothetical data. It's not from anywhere. I made it up. But what we want to do is to test a hypothesis. And the hypothesis is this, okay? As people become more religious, that's called religiosity in the sociology of religion, are more likely to have political participation, okay? Now, there are a couple of elements here that I wanted to go over. Okay. Notice I'm not really specifying, these are concepts, they're kind of labels. I'm not really specifying what religious means, but we've talked about that a little bit in class. For those of you who are online exclusively, what that means is basically we have to, if you say that a person is religious, you have to come up with a way to measure it or operationalize it, right? And so I'll be posting a sister video for those of you who are in exclusively online classes, and it will serve also as a review for those of you in my Zoom and live classes. Okay, but first of all, what we have here is religiosity by voter participation by religiosity. Now, reading a table, one has to keep in mind, and you'll read these as we prepare to do our research projects. When you read a table, there are two elements of a table. This is what they call a 2x2 table. In other words, there's just two variables here. There's something called a column. Logically, in a table, a column goes up and down, just like a column on a building. And then, just as if you were in an auditorium or a movie theater, we have rows. Hopefully you can see my arrow pointing these out. What does this mean? The convention for creating a table is that in the column variable, we have the independent variable or the cause. And in the row variable, we have data for the effect. Remember, the cause and effect, we're predicting the effect of the independent variable or the cause, religiosity, on the dependent variable, voter or political participation, I should call it. Actually, political scientists use this data, they use a similar scale to talk about degree of political involvement, starting with, it's typically 0 is not registered to vote and doesn't vote. 1 is registered to vote but doesn't vote. 2 is votes. 3 is usually donates or volunteers. And it goes all the way up, it goes all the way up to runs for office. Okay, we are not really concerned with that here. We're concerned with these levels of religion and voter participation. Now, we're not making a judgment about left or right or what kind of religious traditions. There is data to indicate that in this hypothetical example. We're just basically trying to read a table and to get information out of us that might indicate whether or not we can support our hypothesis that the more religious people are, the more likely they are to participate. So in this hypothetical data, what we do is we always, in the column, the values. A value is a specific, it's the way we measure variability. Each value is different, right? So we're measuring the value of participation against the independent variable degree of being religious. Okay? To do this, we have these percentages. Now, sometimes you have to round up or round down, the second digit. That's okay to do. So let's look at this. For not religious, right, we see that people don't participate, 62%. They vote only 30%, and they volunteer and vote about 30% as well, okay? That's 50%. Up here, we have moderately religious, doesn't participate, 31%, 36%, 32%. You can read across the values of this. And then very religious, we see that there's a substantially higher number, although not much, of people who are very religious who have the maximum amount of political participation. While this is only about 5 points, that would be enough participation to tip an election, we know from the political science and political sociology literature. Okay? So that's how you read a table. Now the N, this N it just means the number of units in the sample. In this case, hypothetical people who are religious or not and vote or not. Okay? That's how you read a table. Sometimes moving down, we depict a tabular set of data in terms of a graph. A graph also gives us visual confirmation. Remember, we confirm with our senses, right? It gives us a visual confirmation of who participates versus, who doesn't. And we got the not religious, moderate religious, and very religious. And again, we see that in this particular sample, people that involve themselves, in addition to voting, there's a substantially higher number of people, although not much. It would be enough, again, to sway an election. Who are religious, very religious, who volunteer and vote. Okay, so basically, we would look at this if we're looking at political function. It would be, if we're going back to Unit 2, Week 2, this would be a structural functional explanation of the political process. I didn't complete this table down here. You can do it on your own. But this is more of what we call the critical or conflict-based sociology, where we're talking about unequal access to resources, right? Now down here again, I have hypothetical data, right? N equals 155. I didn't put that down in the table. But if we look at, we're talking about the number of people who, depending on their gender identification by income level, and I've given, again, some hypothetical data. Even though this is a little unreal, I've operationalized or specified exactly what I mean by low, medium, and high income levels. Okay. So here, the independent variable or the cause would be gender identification. We identify, with a gender category pretty early in life, certainly before we have a chance to earn income. Okay. And so on this table here, right, I've transformed this here. We have these categories here: men, women, and non-binary, right? Okay. Okay. Notice that I think for this hypothetical data, unlike income level medium, right? They compare the the income level here, with the medium income level, right? Okay, and this would be low. I think this would be medium and high. For some reason, high wasn't included, so don't worry about that. Just focus on how to read this table. So this is a short tutorial on how to read a table in the social sciences. You will see these as you go and explore the literature that talks about the relation to your specific topic for your final paper and for this week, which is technology and inequality. Okay, keep that in mind. Please go back, if you would, please, and read technology, read the assignment, and read the final project guidelines that are included at the beginning of the course. Read them carefully, okay? Thank you, and have a great weekend.